What happens when a beloved comedy legend walks into what should be a routine daytime talk show appearance, only to find himself face to face with the most combative interviewer on television? What you're about to witness is not just an interview. It's the calm before a public implosion. The quiet seconds before arrogance meets restraint. And the exact moment Joy Behar's trademark condescension finally finds resistance it never expected. Because when this interview began, no one in that studio, not the producers, not the audience, not even Adam Sandler himself, had any idea it would end with a host storming off her own show. But to understand how it all unraveled, you have to go back to the very beginning, before the cameras rolled, before the smiles froze, before the tension thickened the air like static before a lightning strike. The View studio buzzed with its usual pre-show energy. The lights above the stage glowed warm and artificial, casting a familiar, polished sheen over the glossy table and neatly arranged chairs. Crew members moved with practiced efficiency, headsets murmuring, clipboards tucked under arms, cameras being adjusted by hands that had done this 1,000 times before. The audience filed in, laughter and chatter bouncing lightly off the walls. There was excitement tonight, real excitement. Not forced applause. Not polite clapping. Genuine anticipation. Because Adam Sandler had just taken his seat. He settled into the guest chair with his familiar slouch, shoulders relaxed, hands loosely folded in his lap. He wore his usual understated outfit, nothing flashy, nothing calculated. Just comfortable. Familiar. The kind of presence that didn't demand attention but naturally drew it anyway. When the audience applauded, it wasn't sharp or obligatory. It rolled in waves. Warm. Appreciative. The kind of reaction reserved for someone people felt like they'd grown up with. Someone who'd been there during childhood sleepovers, bad days, family movie nights. Adam smiled, that easy, slightly crooked grin that had followed him for decades. He nodded politely, almost bashfully, as if still surprised that people were excited to see him. Across the table, Joy Behar watched. Her posture was upright. Rigid. Hands clasped tightly together, fingers interlocked in a way that suggested restraint rather than calm. Her expression was pleasant, but only on the surface. A smile that didn't quite reach the eyes. A practiced look viewers had learned to recognize over the years. As the red recording light blinked on, something subtle shifted. The energy changed. The chatter faded. The applause settled. The studio became quieter, not silent, but alert. The kind of quiet that precedes something unscripted. Joy leaned forward slightly, tilting her head as she began, her tone light but sharpened at the edges. "So, Adam," she said, drawing out his name just a beat longer than necessary. "I have to ask about your latest movie." Adam nodded, still smiling, unaware of what was coming. "I mean," Joy continued, pausing just long enough for the audience to lean in, "really? Another juvenile comedy?" The smile faltered, just barely. A micro-reaction most people wouldn't notice unless they were watching closely. Adam's eyes blinked once. His shoulders stiffened for half a second before settling again. "At your age," Joy added, voice lifting slightly, "don't you think it's time to grow up and make something with actual substance?" The room cooled. Not dramatically. Not obviously. But the warmth dropped a degree. The kind of chill you feel before you consciously realize the window is open. Adam inhaled slowly through his nose, then exhaled. When he spoke, his voice remained calm. Measured. "Well, Joy," he said gently, "I make movies that make people laugh. And I think in times like these, people really need something to smile about. Comedy's always been about giving folks a break, especially when life's tough." A reasonable answer. Thoughtful. Safe. Joy smiled again. But this time, it was sharper. "Joy to folks," she repeated mockingly, emphasizing the words like they amused her. "That's interesting, coming from someone whose idea of humor is fart jokes and funny voices." A few audience members shifted in their seats. I mean, Joy continued, not letting the moment breathe, when was the last time you made a movie that actually said something meaningful about the world we live in? Adam glanced briefly toward Whoopi Goldberg, who opened her mouth as if to soften the exchange, but Joy bulldozed right over her. No, I'm serious, Joy pressed, her voice growing more animated now. We have real problems in this country. Climate change. Political division. Social justice. And here you are, making millions off the lowest common denominator entertainment. Don't you feel any responsibility to use your platform for something more important? The studio felt smaller now. Adam adjusted slightly in his chair. He took another breath. His laid-back demeanor remained, but there was strain behind it now, like a muscle tensing under calm skin. I understand people have strong feelings, he said carefully. But I think comedy matters. When a kid laughs. When a parent forgets their stress for an hour. When a family laughs together, that's meaningful too. Oh, please, Joy scoffed, rolling her eyes on camera. That's Hollywood spin. You're making mindless content that dumps down society. A murmur rippled through the audience. Kids should be learning about important issues, Joy continued, warming up, not wasting time on your infantile humor. The other hosts shifted. Whoopi leaned back, lips pressed together. Sarah Haynes stared down at her notes. Even behind the cameras, crew members exchanged glances. Joy wasn't interviewing anymore. She was prosecuting. And another thing, Joy added, leaning forward now, her tone sharper, your movies consistently portray women as objects or punchlines. How do you justify perpetuating harmful stereotypes in an era where women are fighting for representation? Adam's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. With respect, Joy, he said evenly, I think that's a mischaracterization. I've worked with incredible female comedians and actors. I've tried to create roles that showcase their talents. Name one, Joy snapped instantly. Leaning closer. Name one movie where the woman isn't a nagging wife, an unattainable love interest, or the butt of the joke. Adam answered calmly. Thoughtfully. He cited examples. He explained context. Joy waved it all away. Token characters, she dismissed. You're part of the problem. The air grew heavy now. Audience members stopped shifting. They stopped whispering. They stopped reacting. They were watching something tilt. You have influence, Joy pressed. Money. Power. And you make movies about man-children who refuse to grow up. Adam glanced briefly at the panel again. No one stepped in. I think entertainment and activism can coexist, he said. One doesn't invalidate the other. Your job, Joy interrupted, voice slicing through his sentence, is whatever you choose it to be. And you've chosen exploitation. That word landed hard. Exploitation. For the first time, Adam's smile disappeared completely. Not replaced by anger. By something quieter. Something heavier. And when he spoke again, his voice was softer, but carried farther than any raised tone could. You know what, Joy, he said. I think we should talk about exploitation. The studio went still. Joy's confident smirk flickered, just for a moment. Because in that instant, something had shifted. The balance of the room. The direction of the conversation. And the outcome of the interview. And as Adam leaned back in his chair, eyes steady, voice calm, the audience sensed it too. This was no longer Joy Behar controlling the narrative. This was the moment she lost it. The silence after Adam's words didn't feel empty. It felt heavy. Like the air itself had thickened, pressing down on the studio lights, the audience seats, the glossy table separating host from guest. For a split second, no one moved. No one spoke. Even the hum of the cameras seemed louder than usual. Joy Behar blinked. Once. Then again. Her confident smirk, so familiar, so reliable, hesitated, as if her face hadn't yet received instructions on how to respond to what she'd just heard. Exploitation, she repeated, her tone sharp but no longer playful. Excuse me. Adam didn't rush his answer. He leaned back slightly, resting his hands together, his posture relaxed in a way that felt deliberate now. Calculated. Not defensive, controlled. Since you want to talk about responsible use of platforms, he said evenly, I think it's fair to examine yours too. A faint ripple of tension moved through the audience. Joy's eyes narrowed. I've been fighting for progressive causes longer than you've been making movies, she snapped. I don't need a lecture from someone who thinks putting on a dress for cheap laughs is comedy. There it was. A subtle shift, too subtle for casual viewers, but unmistakable to anyone watching closely. The conversation had stopped being about movies. It was personal now. Adam tilted his head slightly, almost curious. There it is, he said quietly. The assumption that you're morally superior to everyone else in the room. The other hosts exchanged quick glances. Whoopi's eyebrows lifted. Sarah Haynes inhaled sharply, then looked away. You want to talk about harmful representation? Adam continued. Let's talk about how you've spent years representing liberal women as angry, bitter, and judgmental. The words didn't land like a slap. They landed like a mirror. How dare you? Joy snapped, her voice rising just enough to echo faintly off the studio walls. I represent real women with real concerns. Not everyone has the luxury of joking while the world burns. Real women, Adam repeated, thoughtfully now. When was the last time you listened to them? Joy scoffed. They've been conditioned to accept garbage like your movies. Adam's expression tightened, not in anger, but disappointment. So women who enjoy my movies are too stupid to know what they like. That's not what I said, Joy shot back quickly, but there was a flicker of hesitation now. That's exactly what you said, Adam replied calmly. You're dismissing their agency because it doesn't align with your worldview. The audience had gone completely quiet. Not a cough. Not a whisper. Not a shuffle of feet. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was confrontation. I think, Whoopi tried gently, leaning forward, maybe we should move on to Adam's upcoming. No, Joy cut in sharply, turning toward her co-host with a glare that stopped her mid-sentence. I want to hear how the man who made Jack and Jill thinks he understands feminism better than I do. Adam smiled then. But it wasn't warm. It was precise. You're right, he said. Jack and Jill wasn't my best work. It was silly. Over the top. Joy opened her mouth, ready to pounce. But you know what it wasn't? Adam continued, never raising his voice. It wasn't mean-spirited. It didn't tear people down for disagreeing with me. It didn't punch down. Joy laughed sharply. It was 2 hours of offensive jokes. And yet, Adam replied, you've spent the last 20 minutes making offensive comments about my career, my fans, and my intelligence, while calling it journalism. Joy's face flushed slightly. Don't you dare compare Hollywood nonsense to political discourse, she snapped. I'm holding you accountable. No, Adam said, shaking his head slowly. You're grandstanding. You're using me as a prop to prove you're the smartest person in the room. That's ridiculous, Joy said, but her voice cracked just a little. Is it? Adam leaned forward now, elbows resting lightly on his knees. Then tell me. What specific scenes in my movies are harmful? Quote them. Be specific. Joy opened her mouth. Closed it. Shifted in her seat. You can't, Adam continued gently. Because you haven't actually watched my movies. Gasps rippled through the audience. I don't need to watch every Adam Sandler movie to understand their impact, Joy said, but the venom was gone now, replaced by something defensive. If you're going to attack someone's work publicly, Adam replied, "You kind of do." The words were quiet. Reasonable. Devastating. Joy looked around the table, as if searching for backup. None came. "You know what your real problem is with me?" Adam asked, his voice dropping lower, forcing the audience to lean in. "It's not my movies. It's that I'm successful making content that doesn't fit your definition of worthy." Joy's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her notes. "My problem with you," she snapped, "is that you waste talent while real artists struggle." "And there it is," Adam said softly. "Success without your approval is illegitimate." Joy stiffened. "You've appointed yourself the gatekeeper of culture," he continued. "Anyone who succeeds outside your parameters must be torn down." The studio felt like it was holding its breath. "You think you're so clever," Joy said, bitterness seeping into her voice now. "I see a privileged white man who coasted on connections." That accusation landed hard. Even the crew behind the cameras froze. Adam's expression hardened, not with rage, but resolve. "You need to be careful," he said. "That's not criticism. That's character assassination." "Oh, am I making you uncomfortable?" Joy sneered. "Good. I'm uncomfortable with dishonesty," Adam replied. "Not disagreement." Joy stood abruptly. The scrape of her chair echoed louder than it should have. "I will not sit here," she said, voice shaking now, "and be lectured by someone who thinks SNL rejects are art." "Nobody's making you stay," Adam said quietly. The words cut through the studio like glass. Joy spun toward him. "What did you just say?" "I said," Adam repeated calmly, "you're choosing to be here. And you're choosing to behave this way." "You arrogant," Joy's voice cracked as she surged to her feet fully now, hands shaking, microphone wire tugging at her collar. "This is my house," she shouted. Adam raised an eyebrow. "It's a television studio." That was it. Joy's composure shattered. She grabbed the microphone, yanking it free as feedback screeched through the speakers. The audience gasped. A producer shouted from offstage. "I'm done," Joy screamed. "I'm done." She slammed the mic onto the table. And in that explosive moment, with cameras rolling, audience stunned, and Adam Sandler sitting calmly amid the chaos, everyone realized the unthinkable. Joy Behar wasn't winning this confrontation. She was losing control. And what she was about to do next would shock daytime television. For a moment after the microphone hit the table, no one moved. The sound echoed longer than it should have. A dull, hollow thud that seemed to vibrate through the glass cameras, the lighting rigs, the rows of seats packed with people who had come expecting laughter and light conversation, and instead found themselves trapped inside a live implosion. Joy Behar stood rigid, chest rising and falling rapidly. Her face was flushed now, the carefully maintained polish of decades on television cracking under the weight of raw emotion. One hand clenched at her side. The other hovered near the edge of the table, as if she needed it to stay upright. The audience didn't clap. They didn't boo. They didn't breathe. Adam Sandler remained seated. That, more than anything else, changed the tone of the room. He hadn't stood to challenge her. Hadn't raised his voice. Hadn't gestured dramatically. He just sat there, still, calm, grounded, watching the storm rage in front of him without feeding it. "I will not be insulted on my own show," Joy shouted, her voice trembling now, veering dangerously close to hysteria. "By some Hollywood hack who thinks making millions excuses mediocrity." The words hung in the air, ugly and sharp. Whoopi finally leaned forward, both hands raised slightly. "Joy, let's just take a break. Let's breathe for a second." "No," Joy snapped, spinning toward her co-host with fire in her eyes. "I'm not taking a break. I'm not calming down. I'm done pretending this is acceptable." Behind the cameras, a producer could be seen frantically motioning, headset pressed tight against his ear. Another crew member whispered urgently to someone off stage. The red recording light was still on. Still rolling. Still capturing everything. Adam tilted his head slightly, his voice when he spoke again barely above a conversational tone. "Joy," he said, "you're not angry because I disrespected you. You're angry because I didn't submit to you." That sentence landed like a final crack in a dam. Joy turned back toward him slowly, disbelief and fury twisting together on her face. "How dare you psychoanalyze me on national television?" "I'm not analyzing you," Adam replied. "I'm observing you." She laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "You think this makes you look good? Bullying a woman on TV?" "The only person bullying anyone here is you," Adam said evenly. "And you've been doing it long before I walked onto this set." The audience shifted now, a collective movement rippling through the seats. A few heads nodded. Others looked stunned. Some stared straight ahead, afraid to react at all. Joy grabbed her stack of notes, pages crinkling loudly in her shaking hands. "You think you've won something here," she spat. "Congratulations. You turned a simple interview into a circus." "I answered your questions," Adam said. "You escalated." Joy stepped away from the table, heels clicking sharply against the studio floor. The sound cut through the silence like a countdown. "I hope your fans enjoy watching you tear down women who actually fight for something," she said, turning back one last time. Adam didn't rise to it. "I hope you find whatever you're really fighting," he replied quietly. "Because it's not me." That was the moment. Joy's face contorted, not with righteous anger anymore, but with something far less controlled. Something exposed. She yanked the remaining wire from her collar, the feedback screeching again through the speakers as the sound technician scrambled to mute it. "I'm done," she shouted. "I'm done with this show." Gasps rippled through the audience. Whoopi's mouth fell open. Sarah Haynes stared at the table, frozen. Sunny Hostin covered her lips with her hand, eyes wide. Joy turned and stormed toward the exit, her heels striking the floor in fast, furious rhythm. Each step echoed louder than the last, as if the studio itself were counting them. Halfway to the edge of the set, she spun around one final time. "You want to know what exploitation really looks like?" she yelled. "It's you, Adam. Smiling while you rot culture from the inside." Adam shook his head slowly, sadness etched into his expression now. "Goodbye, Joy," he said. "I genuinely hope you find peace, because whatever this is, it's eating you alive." For a split second, it looked like she might fire back again. Instead, she turned and walked off. The camera followed her for just a beat longer than usual, long enough to capture the tremor in her shoulders, the fury in her stride, the unmistakable finality of her exit. Then the shot cut back to the table. Silence. No applause. No music. No cue cards telling the audience how to feel. Adam Sandler sat alone in the guest chair, hands folded loosely, eyes cast downward, not triumphant, not smug, not victorious. Disappointed. The kind of disappointment that comes when you didn't come to fight, but were forced to defend yourself anyway. Whoopi cleared her throat, trying to regain control of the moment. "Well," she said softly, "we're going to take a break." But the damage was already done. What millions of viewers had just witnessed wasn't a heated debate. It wasn't political discourse. It wasn't even entertainment. It was a public unraveling. A moment where composure collapsed under scrutiny. Where moral authority cracked when challenged. And where quiet restraint proved far more powerful than shouting ever could. As the studio lights dimmed for commercial, Adam remained seated, unmoving, as crew members hurried around him. The audience sat stunned, many realizing they'd just seen a moment that would be replayed, debated, and dissected for years. Not because Adam Sandler raised his voice. But because he didn't have to. And that's how a routine daytime interview became one of the most shocking walk-offs in television history. If you watched this moment unfold live, what would you have done? Was Adam right to stand his ground with calm dignity, or should he have walked away sooner? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more cinematic breakdowns of the most explosive moments in television history, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to see how quiet confidence can dismantle arrogance in real time. Because sometimes, the loudest moment in the room is the one where only one person keeps their cool.